Welcome back to another episode of the Crime Bowl podcast with Bill and Jill.
Where it's true crime.
No bull.
That's right.
Today we're unpacking the story of Amber Hagerman and how it started the Amber Alert system.
Oh, yeah, this one is a classic.
Stay tuned for a great pod. Please like, subscribe, and enable your notifications so you don't ever miss an episode.
We appreciate you guys.
Now let's solve some crime.
You know, it's interesting how one tragic event can just spark this nationwide movement.
It really is.
And that's what happened with the Amber Alert system.
Yeah, it's become like ubiquitous.
Right.
These alerts popping up on our phones, interrupting TV shows.
Ugh, I hate when that happens.
But like, how many people actually know the story behind it?
It's kind of crazy, right?
That's what we're here to uncover today.
Deep dive.
That's right, deep dive.
Let's go.
I've got a stack of articles, news clips, court documents, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, wow.
I'm ready to dive deep into the story of Amber Hagerman and how her legacy still impacts child safety today.
You know, the story begins on a seemingly ordinary day in Arlington, Texas.
It's always an ordinary day.
January 13th, 1996, a 9-year-old girl, Amber Hagerman, is riding her bike with her little brother, Ricky, just a few blocks from their grandparents' house.
Just a normal day, you can picture it, right?
Totally, like a typical Saturday afternoon.
Kids being kids.
Exactly.
It's that sense of normalcy that makes what happened next so chilling.
I know, right?
They were in a parking lot, like a familiar spot, when Ricky decided to head back home first.
Oh, no.
So that left Amber alone.
Oh.
And that's when a man in a black pickup truck snatched her right off her bike.
No.
Gone in broad daylight.
It's terrifying.
That's crazy.
A neighbor actually saw the whole thing.
Oh, my God.
From her backyard, she immediately called the police and gave a description of the suspect and the truck.
That's good. At least there was a witness.
At least that.
I wonder if that's like part of the criteria now for the Amber Alert.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll get into that. So the police got there quickly, but despite all their efforts, Amber's just nowhere to be found.
I can't even imagine.
Those first few days must have just been agonizing for everyone.
Yeah.
That's just awful.
And then 4 days later,
Ugh.
the news that no one wanted to hear.
I know.
Amber's body was discovered just a few miles away in a creek bed.
Oh, gosh.
Her throat had been cut, and the case to this day remains unsolved.
Wow.
Which just adds another layer of tragedy to this already awful situation.
It's just heartbreaking, you know?
It is. It is.
Now imagine the impact of this event.
Huge, I bet.
It wasn't just local news. This went national.
Oh, yeah.
Parents everywhere were just horrified.
Understandably.
I mean, how could this happen? Broad daylight, a seemingly safe place.
Like, how do you even process that?
Right. And why wasn't there a system in place to alert the public faster?
I mean, things were different back then.
Yeah, that's true.
But, I mean, that right there, that's the turning point.
Yes.
In our story, Amber's tragic death became this catalyst for change.
Absolutely. People were outraged.
Yeah, they were heartbroken, demanding that something be done.
Yeah. How do we prevent this?
To prevent similar tragedies.
Right, right.
And out of that collective grief and anger.
That's how the Amber Alert system was born.
I can't believe that something so good came out of something so awful.
I know. It's powerful how that happens sometimes.
Yeah, and the Amber Alert system was named in Amber's honor.
Obviously.
Fun.
It stands for America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response.
Oh, it's an acronym?
I know. I didn't realize that until recently.
I didn't either.
Here's crazy.
So it's a nationwide system designed to rapidly inform the public about child abductions.
Just get it out there quick.
Yeah.
As soon as possible.
So, okay, let's break down how it works.
Okay.
If a child is abducted and meets certain criteria, then an Amber Alert is issued.
Right.
We see those alerts flash across our TV screens, interrupt radio broadcasts.
And our phones, like constantly these days.
What's the thinking behind that? Like, how did they come up with that system?
Well, the idea was to create this massive web of awareness, turning every single person into a potential rescuer.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
Like millions of eyes looking out for that missing child.
That's amazing.
And those first few hours are absolutely critical in these cases.
Of course.
You know, time is of the essence.
So I'm assuming there are some pretty strict criteria for when an Amber Alert can be issued.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to overuse the system and risk people just tuning it out.
Yeah, like the boy who cried wolf.
Exactly.
You got it.
You're absolutely right. It has to be a confirmed abduction.
Right.
Not just a runaway.
No.
The child has to be 17 years old or younger.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be enough descriptive information about the child.
The abductor, maybe a vehicle description.
Okay, so like something that's actually helpful.
Useful, yeah.
Okay, and most importantly, law enforcement has to believe that the child is in imminent danger of serious harm or death.
Right, it has to be serious.
It's like hitting that alarm bell only when it truly matters. It's
Yeah.
like, this is not a drill, people.
Yeah.
You have to understand the urgency.
What if this is a real situation?
Now, let's talk about how those alerts actually reach you.
Okay.
So back when the system first started, it relied pretty heavily on traditional media, like TV and radio.
Right, the old school ways.
I remember seeing those alerts on TV as a kid.
Me too.
It was always so jarring, this like sudden interruption
Oh, yeah.
in your program with a grainy picture of a child and a description of what happened.
Totally. It would, like, scare you.
Yeah, it definitely got your attention.
It got your attention for sure.
But think about it.
Yeah.
What if you weren't watching TV at that moment?
Or listening to the radio.
Yeah, or listening to the radio, you would totally miss it.
Completely miss it.
Which is where mobile technology comes in.
Right. That's the game changer.
I remember those first WEA alerts, the wireless emergency alerts.
Yes.
Popping up on my phone. It was a whole other level of immediacy.
Now you're like, whoa.
And it didn't matter where you were, that alert found you.
That's the point. It's like, we will find you.
And there's a reason they're so insistent.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're designed to break through whatever you're doing and make sure that you see it.
Absolutely.
So it's not just that the message is important.
Yeah.
It's that it's delivered in a way that demands your attention.
It needs to grab you.
Yeah. It's fascinating how they've leveraged technology to make the system more effective.
It's amazing, right?
It really is.
From the beginning to now, it's come such a long way.
So it's not just about reaching people. It's about empowering them to take action.
That's a good point.
Every person who sees that alert becomes another set of eyes and ears on the ground.
Right. Potentially bringing that child home safely.
It's crazy to think about the power of something like that.
I know. It's a beautiful thing in a way.
A lot of people working together, even indirectly, towards this one common goal.
Yes, and the results really speak for themselves.
I bet.
Since 1996, over 1,200 children have been recovered in the U.S. thanks to Amber Alerts.
Wait, hold on. Over 1,200?
Yeah, isn't that incredible?
That's not just a statistic. That's incredible.
And 1,200 families reunited.
1,200 lives potentially saved because someone saw that alert.
And took action, yeah.
That's crazy. Are there any, specific cases that really highlight the impact?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the case of 8-year-old Brian Barton.
Okay, what happened to Brian?
So back in 2003, Brian was abducted from his home in Pennsylvania by his babysitter.
Oh, wow.
And an Amber Alert was issued right away.
Oh, good.
And luckily, a motorist miles away from the abduction site happened to see that alert. It was on a highway sign.
Oh, wow.
They recognized the suspect's vehicle and immediately called the police.
Good for them.
I know, right?
That's amazing.
Because of that one person's quick thinking,
Yeah.
Brian was found safe and sound within hours.
Wow. So that one alert, seen by the right person at the right time, made all the difference.
Isn't that amazing?
It's a great example of how well the system can work.
Absolutely.
But it makes you think, right? What if that motorist had missed the alert?
Or what if no one recognized the vehicle?
It's kind of scary to think about.
It's a scary thought, but it also shows how important the Amber Alert system is.
Yeah.
It's not just about catching the perpetrator.
Right.
It's about mobilizing an entire community to look out for a child in danger.
And that's a good thing.
It's huge.
So it's about harnessing the power of collective awareness and action.
Right.
Turning everyday citizens into heroes.
That's a good way to put it.
This story has so many layers to it, I'm hooked already.
There's so much more.
I can't wait to hear more about how the system has evolved and what challenges it faces today.
Right.
But I think that's a good place to pause for now.
Okay.
What do you think?
I agree. It's a lot to process.
Yeah.
But we're just getting started.
That's right, folks. Stay tuned.
Stay with us.
We'll be right back after a quick break.
Welcome back to the Crime Bowl podcast. Before the break, we were discussing Brian Barton's case and that incredible impact one alert had on his safe return. You know, his story really highlights the potential of this system, right? Turning everyday citizens into heroes.
It's true. His story is pretty inspiring. But like you mentioned before the break, the Amber Alert system isn't without its challenges.
Right.
What are some of the concerns that have been raised over the years? I mean, no system is perfect, right?
You're absolutely right. There's always room for improvement, right? One of the big concerns is this potential for something called desensitization.
Desensitization?
Yeah.
What does that mean in this context?
So think about it this way. You hear the same alarm going off every day.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, you start to tune it out, right?
Yeah.
The same thing can happen with Amber Alerts.
Oh, interesting.
If people see them too often or they hear them too often, especially for cases that aren't in their immediate area, they might start to ignore them or not take them as seriously.
So it's like the cry wolf effect, right?
Exactly.
The more you see something, the less impact it has.
Hmm.
But how do you balance that with the need to get information out there quickly? It seems like a really tough problem to solve.
It is. It's a delicate balance, right?
Yeah.
One approach is to be even more selective about when an Amber Alert is issued,
Okay.
making absolutely sure that it meets all the criteria. Confirmed abduction, child under 17, enough descriptive information, and a real belief that that child is in imminent danger.
So it's about making sure that each alert carries that weight,
Yeah.
that sense of urgency, so people know it's not just another notification that they can swipe away. But what about those cases where, like, an abduction happens in one area, but the child could be transported hundreds of miles away?
Right.
How do you make sure that the alert reaches people in the right places?
Well, that's where geographic targeting comes in.
Okay.
Technology has really helped us tailor those alerts to specific areas.
That's correct.
So instead of sending the same alert to everyone across the state, they can target it to the areas where the child is most likely to be.
Yeah.
This helps reduce that cry wolf effect and make sure people are only seeing alerts that are relevant to their location.
Yeah, it's like casting a net where the fish are actually swimming. So technology plays a big role in refining the system. I'm also curious about the role social media plays in all of this. It seems like every time there's a missing child, it spreads like wildfire online, right? Is that something that's being integrated into the Amber Alert system?
Absolutely. Social media has become such a powerful tool for just spreading awareness.
Yeah.
Platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they all allow for super rapid information sharing and community involvement. Think about it. Alert goes out, someone shares it on their page, their friends share it, and so on and so on.
Right.
It creates this exponential reach that can very quickly cover a vast geographic area.
It's like crowdsourcing awareness, right?
Exactly.
Using the power of the online community to amplify that message. But there are potential downsides to social media too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like misinformation can spread just as quickly as accurate information.
Oh, sure.
How do you make sure that the information being shared online is accurate and helpful?
That's a crucial point, right?
Yeah.
So while social media can be a powerful tool for good, it can also be a source of misinformation, right?
Right.
Law enforcement agencies are working really hard to establish partnerships with these social media platforms to try and verify information and combat those false rumors.
So it's about using these platforms strategically, recognizing their power, but also being aware of their limitations.
For sure.
It's fascinating to see how much the Amber Alert system has evolved since 1996. From those initial broadcasts on TV and radio to these sophisticated mobile alerts and social media campaigns.
It's crazy, right?
It's come a long way. But I'm curious, what's next for the Amber Alert system? What are some of the technological advancements on the horizon that could further enhance its effectiveness?
Well, one area that holds a lot of promise is predictive analytics.
Predictive analytics.
Yeah.
That sounds intense.
It is. It's a fascinating field. Essentially, it involves using data analysis and algorithms to identify patterns in past abduction cases.
Oh.
By analyzing things like the time of day, location, and methods used in previous abductions, they can start to predict where and when future abductions might occur.
Wow. So it's like trying to anticipate where the next abduction might happen based on past trends. That's almost like something out of a sci-fi movie. But how accurate are those predictions? I mean, human behavior can be pretty unpredictable.
You're right. It's not a perfect science. Human behavior is complex. But these predictive models are getting increasingly more sophisticated.
Okay.
And they can provide valuable insights that help law enforcement deploy their resources much more effectively.
So it's like playing a strategic game of chess, right?
Yes.
Using data to anticipate your opponent's moves.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Are there any other technological advancements being explored that could improve the Amber Alert system?
Another area that's rapidly evolving is facial recognition technology.
Ooh, interesting.
Imagine this, okay? A child is abducted. Surveillance footage captures the perpetrator's face. Facial recognition software can then be used to scan databases and potentially identify the abductor in a matter of minutes.
So instead of relying on, like, eyewitness accounts or grainy images, you could potentially have a positive identification almost instantly.
Exactly.
That's a game changer. But facial recognition is also a pretty controversial topic, right?
It is.
There are concerns about privacy and potential misuse. How are those concerns being addressed?
You raise valid points. There are definitely ethical considerations surrounding the use of facial recognition. It's a powerful tool, and it's crucial that it's used responsibly and ethically, right?
Right.
There are ongoing discussions and debates about how to implement these technologies in a way that balances the need for security with the protection of individual rights.
Yeah, it sounds like we're still in the early stages of figuring out how to best utilize these powerful tools, but also safeguarding privacy and civil liberties. It's a complex issue, for sure, but it's exciting to see how technology is constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible, even in something as serious as child abduction response.
Absolutely.
It seems like every new development brings us closer to a world where those crucial first few hours after an abduction are no longer a race against time, but a strategic and well-informed response.
That's a great way to put it. The Amber Alert system isn't just about reacting to those abductions. It's about building a more proactive and preventative approach to child safety.
I like that.
And technology is a vital role in making that vision a reality.
But even with all of these advancements, it's important to remember that technology is just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Right.
We can't forget about the human element, the importance of community involvement, and individual responsibility.
Absolutely. Technology can give us really powerful tools, but it's up to us to use those tools effectively. The Amber Alert system is most effective when everyone is informed, engaged, and ready to take action.
So it's a collective effort, and it's a reminder that we all have a role to play in keeping our community safe. We've talked a lot about the Amber Alert system itself, but I think it's important to take a moment to acknowledge the organization that has been so instrumental in its development and evolution. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC, they've been at the forefront of child safety for decades.
NCMEC is incredible. They play such a vital role in supporting families of missing children, coordinating with law enforcement, and just advocating for policies that really improve child safety. They've been a driving force behind the Amber Alert system from the very beginning.
Yeah, and they do so much more than just the Amber Alert.
They do.
They have a 24-hour hotline that people can call to report tips or get assistance. They provide resources for families and communities, and they work tirelessly to prevent child abductions from even happening in the first place. They're truly an invaluable resource.
Their website is amazing, too. It's a wealth of information for anyone who wants to learn more about child safety, how to stay informed about missing children, and how to get involved in creating safer communities.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
A lot.
The history of the Amber Alert system, how it works, the challenges it faces, the role of technology, and the importance of organizations like NCMEC. But I think it's important to circle back to where we started, the story of Amber Hagerman.
You're absolutely right. We can't forget about the human cost of this tragedy.
Yeah.
Amber's story is just a stark reminder of the vulnerability of children and the need for constant vigilance.
It's also a testament to the enduring power of a mother's love.
It is.
Donna Williams, Amber's mother, has dedicated her life to making sure that her daughter's memory lives on in a way that makes a positive difference in the world.
She's incredible. She's turned her pain into purpose, channeling her grief into advocacy and action. She's an inspiration to us all.
It's amazing how one tragic event can just spark a movement that changes the world.
It is.
Amber's legacy lives on in the countless lives that have been saved because of the system that bears her name. It's a reminder that even in the face of just unimaginable loss, there's always hope.
There is.
Hope that we can learn from these tragedies, hope that we can work together to prevent them from happening again, and hope that we can create a world where every child is safe.
That's beautifully said, and it's a powerful message to carry with us as we move forward.
Yeah.
The fight for child safety is an ongoing one, and it requires the collective efforts of individuals, communities, and organizations like NCMEC.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Amber Alert system, what's one final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
I think it's important to remember that while the Amber Alert system is a powerful tool, it's just one piece of a much larger effort to protect children.
What do you mean by that? What else can we do beyond just being aware of the Amber Alert system?
We need to be proactive, working to create communities where children are safe and supported, where these tragedies are less likely to occur in the first place.
So it's about, addressing the root causes, the underlying factors that might contribute to child abduction.
Exactly. That means investing in programs that strengthen families, provide support for at-risk youth, and create safe spaces for children to learn and grow.
It's about creating a culture of prevention,
Yes.
where child safety is everyone's priority.
Absolutely.
And it's about empowering children themselves.
Yes. giving them the knowledge and skills to make safe choices and advocate for their own well-being.
So it's a multifaceted approach that requires the involvement of everyone.
Everyone.
Parents, educators, law enforcement, community leaders, and everyday citizens.
We all have a role to play. And the Amber Alert system is a reminder of what's possible when we all come together with that common goal. It's a testament to the power of collective action and the enduring hope that we can create a world where every child is safe.
Well said. Thank you again for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative and inspiring. And remember, if you see something, say something. That's a phrase we hear a lot these days, but it's especially relevant when it comes to child safety. Don't hesitate to report anything that seems suspicious or out of place.
Absolutely. Trust your instincts.
Yeah.
It's better to err on the side of caution. And remember, you can always report anonymously if you feel more comfortable doing so.
That's a good point. Sometimes people might hesitate to get involved, but even a small detail could be the missing piece of the puzzle that helps bring a child home safely.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Amber Alert system, what's one final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
I want everyone listening to just remember that the Amber Alert system is a powerful tool, but it's just one piece of a much larger puzzle when it comes to protecting children. We can't simply rely on reactive measures like alerts. We need to be proactive in creating safer communities for our kids. Talk to your children about safety, about stranger danger, and what to do if they ever feel unsafe. Make sure they know who they can trust and how to reach out for help. Be involved in your community. Support organizations that work to strengthen families and provide resources for at-risk youth. Advocate for policies that prioritize child safety and create safe spaces for children to learn and grow. We all have a role to play. And while the Amber Alert system is a testament to the power of collective action, it's important to remember that it was born out of tragedy, out of the heartbreaking loss of Amber Hagerman. Let's honor her memory by working together to create a world where every child is safe.
Well said. This deep dive has been incredibly informative and thought-provoking. I know I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Crime Bull podcast. Remember, knowledge is power, and in this case, it could be the power to save a life. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay involved in your communities. And, as always,
true crime, no bull.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Amber Alert system, what's one final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
You know, I want everyone listening to remember that the Amber Alert system is a powerful tool, but it's just one piece of a much larger puzzle when it comes to protecting children.
What do you mean by that? What else can we do beyond just being aware of the Amber Alert system?
Well, we can't simply rely on reactive measures like alerts. We need to be proactive in creating safer communities for our kids.
So how do we do that? Like, what are some concrete steps that our listeners can take to be more proactive in their communities?
Well, it starts with awareness. Talk to your children about safety, about stranger danger, and what to do if they ever feel unsafe.
Right.
Make sure they know who they can trust and how to reach out for help.
So it's about empowering them with knowledge and skills so they can be their own advocates.
Exactly. And it's also about being involved in your community. Support organizations that work to strengthen families and provide resources for at-risk youth. Advocate for policies that prioritize child safety and create safe spaces for children to learn and grow.
So it's about fostering a culture where everyone feels a sense of responsibility for the well-being of children.
It really does take a village.
It truly does. And while the Amber Alert system is a testament to the power of collective action,
absolutely,
it's important to remember that it was born out of tragedy, out of the heartbreaking loss of Amber Hagerman.
Yeah.
Let's honor her memory by working together to create a world where every child is safe.
Absolutely. Well said.
This deep dive has been incredibly informative and thought-provoking.
It has been.
I know I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too.
Me too.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Crime Bull podcast.
It was my pleasure.
Remember, knowledge is power, and in this case, it could be the power to save a life.
That's right.
Stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay involved in your communities.
And as always,
true crime.
no bull.